Hello, my friends. I'm Nora, and today I want to take you through this story slowly and carefully, because what happened in the disappearance and murder of Taylor Wright didn't just affect the people involved. It revealed the devastating consequences of betrayal, trust misplaced in the wrong hands, and the fragile, dangerous ways that desperation can twist a friendship into something deadly. I want you to take a breath with me before we begin, because this is not an easy story. It begins with a girl who grew up searching for stability and ends with a woman buried in concrete by someone she believed was her friend. And as you move through this with me, I want you to imagine Taylor not as a headline, not as a case number, not as a statistic, but as a person, someone who laughed, who loved deeply, who raised a little boy she adored, who fought through a difficult childhood, who built her own identity with fierceness and determination, and who ultimately trusted a woman who would use that trust against her in the worst way imaginable. Taylor Wright entered this world on April 24th, 1984. From the outside, her early years might have looked unremarkable, just another girl growing up in a rough, unstable household. But inside that little life, there was a constant battle to survive circumstances she never asked for. By the time she was 13, the state had intervened. She was removed from her biological mother's care and placed into the foster care system. Imagine that for a moment. 13 years old, already tired of struggling, already carrying emotional bruises you can't see, already learning not to expect consistency from the world. Children adapt fast, but they also harden fast. Taylor learned that early. People who knew her back then described her as small and wiry, with stringy hair and a guarded look in her eyes, the look of someone who never fully relaxes. She didn't trust easily. She had been let down too many times for that, but there was still something about her that reached out, as if she were forever searching for the place she belonged. And then Nancy Murchison stepped into her life. Nancy was a neighbor, an ordinary woman with an extraordinary heart. She saw Taylor one day, this frail young girl with loneliness stitched into every movement, and she made a choice that would change both of their lives. "You can come stay with us," she said. Just like that, no hesitation, no conditions. It sounds simple, but to Taylor it was the first real act of safety she had experienced in years. She moved in with Nancy and her sons, and for the first time in her young life, she exhaled. There was food in the refrigerator. There were clean sheets. There was laughter. There was routine. That house became the place where Taylor finally learned that family doesn't have to come from blood. Sometimes it comes from kindness. Throughout her teenage years, Taylor blossomed. Nancy would later say that despite everything she'd survived, Taylor still made an effort to befriend everyone. She was the kind of girl who wanted to lift others up because she knew what it felt like to be ignored. She was outgoing, friendly, openly affectionate toward the people she trusted. That tough exterior stayed with her, of course. You don't just shed trauma like old skin, but underneath it was a warm, bright spirit with a fierce desire to build a better life. In her early 20s, Taylor moved to North Carolina, where she met a man who would become a major chapter in her story, Jeff Wright. Jeff was a U.S. Marine, disciplined, confident, drawn to Taylor's strength. Their first date was anything but ordinary. He remembered later that they ended the night throwing knives at a dartboard, a snapshot of their dynamic from the beginning. Taylor was competitive, playful, strong in ways that intrigued him. She lifted weights. She laughed with her whole face. She flexed her biceps to make him laugh, and she looked effortless doing it. They married around 2007, and in 2010 they welcomed their son, Drake. Becoming a mother brought out a side of Taylor that had always lived within her but had never been allowed to thrive. A protective, loving, grounded version of herself. Friends and family said she adored her son. She saw in him the chance to give someone the stable upbringing she never had. She texted him every day, no matter where she was or what she was going through. He was the center of her world. Taylor also pursued a career that matched her bold personality and her desire to protect others. She joined the Jacksonville Police Department in North Carolina. She served 2 separate periods, between 2008 and 2013. Her colleagues remembered her as brave, spirited, determined, the kind of officer who didn't back down from challenges. When she left and then returned to the department, they were eager to have her back. She was good at her job, and she knew it. But no strong person is immune to relationship breakdowns, and after the Wright family moved to Florida, cracks began appearing in Taylor and Jeff's marriage. Their disagreements grew sharper, more painful. It wasn't just emotional strain. There were financial disputes, custody disagreements, resentment simmering beneath the surface. On the evening of their 10th wedding anniversary, instead of celebrating, they agreed to divorce. What followed was 2 years of litigation, anger, and emotional exhaustion. A major point of contention was a $100,000 settlement Taylor had received from a car accident before the marriage. In her mind, it was hers alone. It had nothing to do with Jeff, but the court saw it differently and froze their assets. The situation escalated. Taylor, desperate and under immense stress, managed to withdraw the money anyway, violating a court order. Jeff responded by calling the police during an argument, and Taylor was arrested for battery, although Jeff later dropped the charges. But the damage to her law enforcement career was irreversible. No police agency would hire her again. The badge she had worked so hard to obtain was now out of reach forever. Without a stable job or housing, and with pressure mounting from the court, Taylor made a devastating decision. She agreed to give Jeff full custody of Drake. It broke her heart. She missed her son every single day, texting him constantly, trying to keep the connection alive even from a distance. By 2017, Taylor was trying to start over. She reinvented herself as a private investigator in the Pensacola area, a job that let her use her law enforcement skills without the uniform. She began dating again, exploring relationships with both men and women. On a dating website, she met Cassandra Waller, a school administrator. They fell into a relationship that had its own challenges. Taylor struggled occasionally with drugs, and there was a past infidelity that hurt Cassandra deeply. But despite that, they stayed together. They tried. They believed they could build a future. Cassandra described the weekend before Taylor disappeared as hopeful. They were moving Taylor into Cassandra's home. It was supposed to be a fresh start. "My whole birthday weekend was moving her," Cassandra said later, "but I didn't mind. I was really happy." Taylor was trying to regain custody of Drake. She was determined to show the court she could provide a stable, loving home. Through all of this, Taylor wore a distinctive bullet necklace, a small piece of jewelry that symbolized her strength, her past, and her identity as a woman who had fought her way through life. It was a part of her. That necklace would become one of the most haunting elements of this case. Then came September 8, 2017, the day Taylor vanished. It started like any other. She had plans to meet with a friend, a woman named Ashley MacArthur. Ashley was 40 years old, married, and a former crime scene technician with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. She wasn't a sworn officer, but she'd worked closely with law enforcement, processing crime scenes, and learning the details of how evidence was collected. Taylor and Ashley had been friends for about a year. They shared a background in law enforcement. They understood each other's experiences. Taylor trusted her. She trusted her deeply, and it cost her everything. What Taylor didn't know was that Ashley's life was unraveling behind the scenes. She was embezzling thousands of dollars from her family's business, Pensacola Automatic Amusement, siphoning money from jukebox and pool table rentals. She was having multiple affairs, including a passionate relationship with a man named Brandon Batty, the owner of Styx Billiard Hall. She spent lavishly on him, buying him expensive gifts, including a boat. Her husband had no idea, but perhaps the most dangerous secret Ashley kept was this. On August 16th, just weeks before Taylor disappeared, Taylor had entrusted her with $34,000, money Taylor needed for her court hearing. Ashley had promised to place it in a safety deposit box. Instead, she forged Taylor's signature and deposited the money into her own account. The funds were gone within weeks. Taylor had been asking Ashley repeatedly to go to the bank with her and retrieve the money. Ashley made excuse after excuse, but with Taylor's court date only days away, she was running out of time. She pushed Ashley harder, and Ashley cracked. On the morning of September 8th, Taylor texted Cassandra while she was out with Ashley. Around 11:20 a.m., she sent what would be her final message. Then her phone went silent. As the hours ticked by, Cassandra grew anxious. She tried calling Taylor repeatedly. No answer. She tried calling Ashley. This time, Ashley picked up. She told Cassandra not to worry. Taylor was riding horses on her family property. She even claimed they'd changed their plans and gone horseback riding instead of to the bank. It didn't make sense. Taylor needed that money, and horseback riding wasn't something she would choose over solving a court crisis. As the day turned to evening, two strange text messages arrived from Taylor's phone. They didn't sound like Taylor, too formal, too detached, too unlike the woman Cassandra knew. "I'll call you later. I need time to think," one said. And another, after midnight, "Everything is okay. I need a few days to think." Cassandra knew in her gut these messages weren't real. Taylor texted her son every day, and never did now. Taylor wouldn't vanish the weekend of Cassandra's birthday. Taylor wouldn't abandon her belongings, her car, her money, her identity. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Eventually, Cassandra reported Taylor missing. Police initially believed Taylor had left voluntarily, but those who loved her knew that wasn't possible. Nancy felt it in her bones. She would not have taken off, she said. Someone had done something horrible to her. Detectives began unraveling the web of lies around Taylor's disappearance. They cleared Cassandra quickly. She was cooperative, her alibi solid. They looked at Jeff, Taylor's ex-husband. He had motive, certainly, but he was in North Carolina, with an airtight military alibi. That left one person, Ashley. When detectives first interviewed her, Ashley told them she and Taylor had spent the day running errands, then riding horses in East Milton on her family property. She said Taylor left on foot or maybe took an Uber, but something about Ashley's behavior unsettled detectives. She was casual, almost playful. A missing friend didn't seem to concern her. Then investigators pulled Ashley's bank records, and everything shifted. That forged $34,000 check, deposited into Ashley's account. Every dollar spent. Ashley had lied. Next came her phone records, and the truth was written in data. On the day Taylor disappeared, Ashley's phone pinged off towers near Britt Road, not East Milton. Britt Road was where Ashley's family farm was, and between 11:52 a.m. and 3:33 p.m., Ashley's phone stayed in that area. Right during the time frame, Taylor vanished. Ashley had taken Taylor to the farm, and Taylor never left it alive. Detectives discovered surveillance footage of Ashley buying beer for Taylor in the morning, but the footage from September 9th, the day after Taylor disappeared, was worse. Ashley was filmed at a Home Depot purchasing bags of quick-dry concrete and potting soil. Meanwhile, witnesses began coming forward with horrifying revelations. Ashley had told friends, casually, chillingly, that she wished Taylor was dead, that she was going to drug her beer with cocaine to cause an overdose, that she'd tried once already, but Taylor spit the beer out. She had joked about firearms. She had asked how much cocaine it would take to kill someone. This wasn't a spontaneous act. This was premeditated murder. But detectives still needed one thing, a body. Without it, the case was circumstantial. On October 19th, as Ashley sat in a police interview room giving vague answers, K9 teams searched the Britt Road farm. Within minutes, a cadaver dog alerted. Officers approached a patch of disturbed soil behind a fence line. Concrete fragments peeked through the dirt. And there, encased in concrete and potting soil, detectives found a human skull, with a bullet wound in the back. Wrapped beside the remains was a hammock, and hanging among the bones was Taylor's bullet necklace. The next day, dental records confirmed what everyone already knew. Taylor Wright had been murdered. 41 days of prayers, 41 days of searching, 41 days of hope shattering. Ashley was arrested that night. The trial in 2019 was emotional, intense, and grounded entirely in circumstantial evidence, but it was enough. The jury convicted Ashley of first-degree murder. She showed no emotion, no remorse. She was sentenced to life in prison. Nancy would say she felt robbed of watching Taylor grow old, robbed of seeing her as a mother, robbed of the young woman she had raised as her own. Cassandra struggled with the betrayal. Ashley had smiled in her face, pretended to care, pretended to search, pretended to help. Drake grew up without his mother, and Taylor, the girl who had survived a brutal childhood, who found love in a foster home, who became a mother, a police officer, a private investigator, a fighter, an imperfect but determined woman, was gone, taken by someone she trusted, someone she called a friend, someone who believed $34,000 was worth more than a human life. I'm Nora, and thank you for walking with me through this heartbreaking story. If you take anything from Taylor's life, let it be this: trust is precious, and sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we never saw coming. Stay safe, my friends, and never ignore the uneasy feeling inside you that whispers when something isn't right.